Say y'all, them
Whoa.
birds behind me, they look playoff bound for the second time in 3 years. Playing bound at worst, the third year in a row. I got a question. Should the Pelicans be worried about Brandon Ingram? Talk about it.
You must know that first. Can't nothing and nobody fade what we trying to do and what we about to do. Second thing is, we got this game on our level. You understand what I'm saying?
Welcome to another episode of In Space. I'm your host, Chris Connor. Shout out to all the good people that support us at Jägermeister Birdsall Law Firm, as well as the good people DraftKings Sportsbook. You will be hearing from them in the middle of the show. Joining me tonight is, I gotta say, the last time that we had this trio recording here with Lito and Coach Cyp, y'all seem to take a liking to it. You know, I like a lot of the responses I got. Probably the most positive responses I've had in a long time in shows that I've done, like consistent. You know, that's not gonna stop me from making shows. I don't know where this show is gonna go. But shout out to y'all. Felt like we had to run it back. Wanted to do these more often. Two of my favorite people to talk hoops with. Y'all know Lito, of course, and then we got Coach Mike Cyprian. Coach, what up with you, brother?
Living the dream, brother. Little mama sleeping peacefully. Work on the website a little bit, talk some basketball. So it's pretty cool on this Wednesday evening.
For sure, man. For sure. Lito, how you feeling, dog?
Man, same. Literally the same thing Mike just said. Like, I got my daughter to sleep, but I get to talk basketball. Like, I'm good. I'm good, man.
All right, so talking basketball, of course, that's why we here. I want to talk. I want to talk Brandon Ingram. Um, Pelicans currently, as we speak, I believe the show will be released Thursday morning / afternoon. So as of then, the Pelicans have won 3 straight. They're going to be 42-26 currently. Half a game. If the Clippers win today, a game back with the tiebreaker away from the fourth seed. And it looks somewhere with the tiebreaker 3 games ahead of the Sacramento Kings, 2.5 games ahead of the Mavericks, and 3 total games ahead of the Phoenix Suns. But I think the Suns are also playing tonight, so it could be 2.5. But Pelicans are right where you want to be around this time, all things considered. Out of the play-in. But all the talk has been about Zion Williamson as of late, and I've seen Herb Jones get some love and appreciation. In that, Willie Green has gotten some positive affirmations. We've heard Trey Murphy get his love as well, and Brandon Ingram is kind of like people are talking about him, but fan base has been up and down in their overall analysis of him as of late as we head into the playoffs. So I straight up wanted to ask you guys, should they be worried about him? And when I ask that, I mean, should they be worried about Brandon Ingram as we head to the end of the season and going towards the playoffs? I got some stats, I got some numbers, I got some comparisons. We're gonna talk a little FIBA, and we're gonna talk about some of the changes as well, along with the sacrifice. But I want to start with you, Lito. For starters, where Brandon Ingram is currently right now, struggling a little bit offensively again.
Yeah.
When it comes to scoring, should the Pelicans be worried?
So, no. Worried, no. Concerned on some fronts of it, maybe. Possibly could be better at the shot selection. But it's funny you asked me that because I literally was doing a little bit of research, and he honestly this March that he's currently having, he had the same January. Like, literally, numbers wise, it was the same thing. The difference though is the defense in March. And when I say rebounds, assists, points, like literally identical in January. I think Mike being a hooper, and you yourself, you probably will probably agree with me on this too. I think I think he could do some things to help himself out. Um, he's in a slump right now. Let's just call it what it is. He's just in a slump, and that happens in basketball, and that's okay. You know what I'm saying? Like, hell, I seen Clay not be able to hit the ocean, and then turn around and give you a 60-point game. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not, and obviously Brandon's not the shooter that Clay is, but I'm just using basketball as an example. I think I think Brandon probably should um, start possessions more. Um, I know Mike and I both hate the elbow, but I think he should operate from the elbow. Like, he should 1-2 dribble pull up over each shoulder shooter, like, because that's the point he wants to get to. Like, why start possessions all the way on the perimeter, make it harder for yourself, and then have to put up a difficult shot? Also, another thing too. Like I said this yesterday, if you look at the month of March, he's only been shooting like 3 free throws a game. Like, he got to
Mhm.
get to the line, because once you get a bucket, an easy one to go in, like, you get a layup, bro, that changed everything about your approach to the game. You know what I'm saying? And it's so crazy because the last time we had this conversation, I was saying even practice shooting, I start inside out. You don't
hmm
start outside in. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And sometimes you just gotta get the motion of a shot. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just gotta see one just go through the hoop, and that changes everything for you.
So, Coach, and we are gonna talk defense. We are gonna talk where he, where he's at in regards to the entire season. Um, he ended February, and that's when it and his end of February Knicks game 24-6-5. The game at Indiana 36-4, and then the game back at home against Indiana 34-8-6. It started to feel like he was, even with Zion rounding into a different form, slowly turning into what we're looking at now. Started to feel like Brandon was getting his legs back under him. He had missed some time post All-Star break battling the flu, and it just seemed like
hmm
offensively, while he had still been throughout the throughout the year finding other ways to contribute. And look, some of the coverages that teams will throw at him show you, even, I mean, whether he scores 7 or he scores 25 points, teams still respect him. He's still a,
hmm
a high, we're still talking about a really good overall basketball player. But then, in a blowout, scores 12, up and down blowout 17, then Atlanta 7. He scores 20 again, but then it's 13 and it's 22 and 11. Now there are some blowouts sprinkled in this game, and these stats don't tell the whole story, but they do tell some story. My question to you, Coach: do you think that people are paying too much attention to those numbers and to where his numbers are at right now, and throughout the season?
I think so. Mainly because it's everybody's pointing to the post All Star has been pointing to the post All Star Brandon Ingram. He always sits gear in March. Like a lot of the other star level perimeter players in general. They start to kind of get their play revved up and not missing as many back to backs because they're trying to get in playoff form, if you will. And so when you hear a lot of people saying, "Oh yeah, Bi's going to turn it up in March after the All Star break," he's done this the past couple seasons. You're kind of expecting that. And when like you mentioned, the Pacers game and the Knicks game, we had pretty good scoring numbers, scoring output, and then in these blowouts, he hasn't been having them. People are wondering, what the deal is, and I do think that if the others weren't contributing as much, if you weren't getting the numbers that you're getting from Herb and Trey, when Najee's playing well, you're getting the scoring from him. Of course, CJ, when he's scoring it, and what we've been seeing from Zion, Bi's probably still got it a little bit on cruise control, knowing that he doesn't have to press the issue. I think a sliver of that is playing into it. But to answer your question, I do think that a lot of people are probably panicking a little bit just because the narrative going into All Star break with his scoring kind of being down a little bit is oh well, he'll be fine after the All-Star break. Last couple seasons, he's been really, you see the numbers: 28 points a game here, 26 and 7 there, or whatever people have been posting. His post All-Star numbers the last couple seasons have been pretty good, and we've got a good sample size of that. So, a lot of people are freaking out, like, what's the deal? Well, I think the deal is everybody else is a healthy squad playing meaningful games. Everybody else is contributing. So it's not as big a deal as one would think. But I do think that he probably needs to crank it in gear with the last 10 games just so he can have a good rhythm going into the playoffs, though.
Lito, I'm gonna pull up a tweet here, and I want your thoughts on it. This is from shout out to Maples back
Shout out
after
Maple.
a long hiatus.
I ain't know
My
that
dog
boy's
Maple
back,
says,
man.
"Yeah, man, yeah, man." He said the Pelicans brought him back. Believe that, huh?
Wow.
So when talking about Bi, he said he is averaging 4 less points per game for an extra 10 wins, and by all metrics, playing the best basketball of his life. And he hasn't been locked in on defense since he was a Laker, winning. Lito, what I want to know is how much of what we're seeing for Brandon. You talked a little bit about the defense, but I think it's clear that a lot of people would say that this is the overall best consistent effort that we've seen from him defensively as a Pelican. We've seen it in stretches, but I don't think we've seen it this consistently to where he's making feels like crucial plays night in and night out, really locked in on that side of the
hmm
basketball. He's taken some matchups in regular season basketball that maybe that we're not used to him seeing. Like I remember the Laker game in New Orleans. I think it might have been New Year's Eve or it was New Year's Day. It was somewhere around that time where he takes LeBron from the opening possession. Surprised a lot of people because most people would have thought, you give that to LeBron. I mean, you give that to Herb, but you expect Herb to take that matchup. That was not what they ended up choosing. And there was some other matchups throughout there in which but the numbers will tell you he's better defensively, and you can, and the eye test I think matches that as well. His help
Right.
defense has been a lot better. His communication I think has been better. The blocks, the steals, the stocks in total. Um,
Mm.
Dating back, but going back to Maple's point, how much of what we're seeing from Brandon do you think is about sacrifice when it comes to being a part of a winning group and a winning team that's approaching 50 wins for the first time in over a decade?
Yeah.
Yeah. Win shares is always going to be greater than stats. I think a lot of it is sacrifice. I think a lot of it has to be a buy-in. Um, like, listen, make no mistake about it. Bi want to play a particular brand of basketball. He's used to playing a particular way. This is new for him, and he's trying. And to be honest, I know trying doesn't sound like a lot for people, but
He's
man, if
trying.
but bro, like if you could get a basketball player or anybody in life to try and just give that same energy and effort, and even though their shot is not falling, you see no fall off on the defensive end. I can't. It's really hard to knock that. It's really hard for me to say, yo, like, yeah, I know you playing defense, but you got to be better here too. Because yeah, like we definitely gonna need, like Mike said, the last 10 games. I would like to see an uptick in his aggressiveness actually, going into the playoffs, because whatever goals the Pelicans have, you don't achieve them without Bi being Bi. Um,
Yep.
but to Maple's point, I definitely agree with everything that he said. I think there is a lot of buy-in. I think it's buy-in. I know this is a Brandon Ingram show. But this buy-in on everybody's part. It's buy-in on Zion's part too. Diving on the floor for loose balls, like trying to he's playing hella defense. Also, getting in the stands, getting low, like playing defense. Bi doing the same thing, picking guys up, like taking a contact, playing through it on the defensive end, and not not using your hands to reach in, just literally staying vertical, right, on plays. Like that take a lot, dog. Because I mean, Bi he's not a huge guy. He's a you know what I'm saying,
Right.
he's a slim player. Like, and in order to take that kind of beat, you said he guarded LeBron from the opening jump. Like, dog, like we know who LeBron is. So
How about
imagine. Go ahead.
how about
Jared
how
Allen,
about how about Jared Allen
How
with
about
no
Jared Allen? Yeah,
with
no
successful
help.
no help,
yeah.
just him. I mean,
Nobody was
that
digging.
And he won the
that
and he
wouldn't have
won
been
the
on my
and he
bingo
won
card.
and he won the matchup. Like, how about not just doing it but winning it? You know what I'm saying? Like you gotta give credit where it's due. Shout out to Willie. I think Brandon has. I think it is buy-in. And look, the shot not falling right now. Sometimes shit just don't go your way. It don't. You see warm-ups, the game going one way, and during the game, the shit just might not happen that way. But that's life, right? And what I appreciate was what he didn't do was he didn't quit and say, well, fuck, I'm not gonna do nothing. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna continue to play hard defense because I think Brandon realizes, I'm just not playing for we're not playing for a playing game anymore. We playing for actual seeding in the playoffs. Like we about to be a 50 win, potentially a 50 win team for the first time since probably 2008. This is bigger than my stats or the game that I want to play or the shots that I want to shoot. Like, I think you gotta see that. Like, I think you gotta see that buy-in.
Coach, I do want to, because I think, and I share this concern in regards to how much of what we're seeing right now will actually translate into playoff basketball. We're currently into the regular season, right? And depending on who you ask, the game slowing down falls right into Brandon's hands and
Yeah.
into a style that he prefers anyway. And with we've got a chance to see it ironically before. We haven't seen it from Zion with what he's doing right now, but we see a style that benefits a guy like his skill set as a shot maker. So, what I'm curious about, and I'm gonna pull up another tweet, but my concern is right now is that the difference is now is that we, for a while, we've been kind of confused to, all right, we've seen Brandon and Zion play really well individually. And Zion felt like the one that no matter who was out there, he was gonna find. I mean, he's the generational talent. Those individuals, they transcend certain lineups, whether they're faulty or whether they're really, successful. With
Right.
Brandon, it that was the question. And I don't know as much about, I don't know as much when it comes to CJ, but Brandon was the question mark in regards to what is his game going to look like when maybe he doesn't have the basketball as much, when he has to do, work, like his shot profile and diet has to change and be a little bit different. I'm
Right.
curious what we've seen, what that uptick is going to look like, and what not only him but the coaching staff is going to do to make him more successful once we're talking about actual playoff games, because they are going to need him. They are going to need him to be successful. And most teams, you can't think of many that win playoff series. It got to be a 1-2. It can't just be all of Zion's. It can't. It can't.
Oh, facts.
And I don't
Facts.
even know. Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if it can be a sum of your parts. Like, I don't know if the Pelicans right now, who are winning, all right, it may be Trey's night this night. It could be,
By
uh,
committee.
yeah. I don't know if by committee is going to beat the Clippers in a playoff series. You know what I'm saying? But I want your thoughts on that, and I also want your thoughts on this tweet here. Schmidt, shout out to Schmidt. For long has been called the number one. He in the top 3 of Brandon Ingram haters. That's what they call him. But look at this. It's so funny, man. For years, we said he didn't impact the games that much because he didn't do the little things. Now he's doing them, and the impact is there, and folks are mad. What does that say about the value of scoring versus doing
Mm,
everything else?
mm,
Go ahead, Sip.
It. Hey, shout out Schmidt. For real,
mm-hmm.
for real. And ironically, Schmidt was saying earlier on in the season, maybe coming into the season, if Zion stays healthy, he stays healthy. If Bi stays healthy, if Bi would turn into if I would sacrifice being like a 25, 26 a game guy and go be 21 and 9, 20 and 9 BI and be the de facto point guard, the ceiling could probably go a little bit higher. And we're seeing a little bit of that, with the uptick in playmaking and sacrificing shots to make sure Trey gets his touches, getting out the way for Zion, letting CJ get his rhythm, stuff like that. But to answer, to answer the Schmidt tweet, I'll talk about the Schmidt tweet. It 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 just tells me that people just don't watch basketball like that. We argue about stands all the time. We argue with stands all the time, unfortunately. And we talk about box score watchers who are complaining about certain guys not getting them a certain amount of touches, or certain guys not averaging a certain amount of points. But impacting winning matters. And more importantly, not only is BI sacrificing, the offensive, the shots, the numbers, the points, we don't know if he's sacrificing a big payday because of that. Um, and that needs to be spoken about, because the only way to get a big payday is to score it a lot of times in this league. Dude's not getting big paydays for impact and winning. Derek White not gonna get the same amount of money as Jalen Brown, even though Derek White impacts winning just as much as Jalen Brown. Um, you know, Chris Middleton not gonna get the kind of payday that Giannis would get, or Drew would get the same kind of payday as Giannis would get, even though they both impact winning just in different ways than Giannis. So to have a dude who you consider a max contract dude take a lesser role, or sacrifice numbers, sacrifice touches, sacrifice usage, even though I don't think his shot attempts are that far from last season. To up it up on the defense, pass a little bit more. Hell, BI even been screening a little bit more and a little bit better, truthfully.
Mhm.
Get out of his comfort zone to help get this team, you know, to a place they hadn't been in damn near 2 decades. Said a lot about him, and that's what Schmidt and Maples are talking about, with sacrificing what you normally are and what you work to be in the off season. I spoke about it last time we were together when we were talking about like why BI is hesitant to shoot the three, and I was like, because he's stubborn. Most people are stubborn. You dedicate X amount of time to perfecting this one thing about your game, and you're gonna be reluctant to get away from that. Well, we've seen that he's gotten away from that for the betterment of the team. So that be- that being said, in the playoffs, he's gonna have to get back to that. Chris and Lito, like I was listening to the All NBA pod earlier. That's Tim Legler's pod, and he was talking about why Phoenix, even though they haven't been playing, they've been kind of playing up and down a little bit. I want to see it was either that one or real ones. 'Cause I listen to Roger Bell a lot. He knows I like listening to him speak hoops. But they talk about how in the playoffs, obviously the game slows down, the possessions matter. The mid range guys can really have an impact. And Phoenix having three of those dudes who, if three ball not falling, or three ball, you're not gonna get 40 attempts at the playoff game. That's not playoff basketball by and large. And it's tough to get to the rim because of the whistle. You got to be able to work the in between game. And he spoke about how Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, and Kevin Durant can all work the mid range and get to those areas. That's we go see. I think we're gonna see Slim get back to that, because again he can always revert back to what he is when we need those baskets. Because we'll see Herb not get to the cup a whole lot. Herb doesn't have a mid range. We'll see Trey not be able to get to the couple out. Oh, there's going to be some games where now teams are scheming against Trey and making him, uncomfortable and play to his weaknesses. Well, we'll see BI have to take over some stretches. It's going to be some times where Zion's not going to get a couple calls for a couple possessions because I already doesn't get any calls, but Zion has never played a playoff game. So
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see how he reacts to some of the physicality, to the lack of calls, or to certain coverages. And we all know what CJ can do, but a lot of teams can just put a big wing on CJ and kind of not take him away, but hold him in check a little bit. So now you're gonna need BI to start creating some of those intermediate shots. So I think that what BI is, like you said, because by and large, as a player, suits well for bodes well for what you'll see in the playoffs. I mean, Chris Middleton was the same way for the Bucks. I mean, I know Chris Middleton takes threes, but Chris Middleton ate at the elbows in that during that finals run. So it can be done. It's just a matter of Bi just, I think, using this last stretch of games to start creating some rhythm for himself.
I'm glad you said Khris Middleton because I actually have something in regards to Khris Middleton towards the end of the show. Quick word from DraftKings and then Lito. I want your thoughts. I have a separate question for you, but I also want your thoughts in regards to the financial. I guess I won't call it consequences, but
Implications.
implications. There you go, vocabulary. Implications of this season, for better or for worse, if it should matter at all. DraftKings, what up?
The thrill and excitement of March Mania is here, and DraftKings Sportsbook, one of America's top-rated sportsbook apps, is giving new customers a shot to turn $5 into $150 instantly in bonus bets with any college basketball bet. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code BOOT. New customers can bet $5 to get $150 instantly in bonus bets. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook with code BOOT. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit 1-800-GAMBLER.net. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 and over, age varies by jurisdiction. Void in Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. See dkng.com/promos for eligibility and deposit restrictions, terms, and responsible gaming resources.
Lito.
Yo.
So during BI's 5 years now in New Orleans, we haven't gotten a chance to see him and this version of Zion operate. We just, we haven't gotten a chance to see it, and when we have, it's for long. Even last season, they didn't play that many games together because they had injuries or setbacks or minor things that, well, some that became major that overlapped each other, unfortunately. So this is in a lot of ways, and and you can count year 2 to an extent, but this is really, in a lot of ways, this is the first season where you've seen those two be on the court and really have an opportunity as they both matured in certain ways, and both kind of comfortable with their impact, or what their impact could look like, what their ceilings could look like in this league. This is kind of the first year where you've gotten a chance to really see those two kind of figure out some things together. But it's definitely the first year you've been able to see it impact consistent winning.
Yeah.
Could it possibly be, with what we're seeing from Zion and what we know, even when he isn't 100% necessarily in shape, or he's working himself back from an injury, or he's rusty, whatever the case may be, this just might be what it looks like playing with a generational talent. Is that a problem? Is it a problem? But also, what does that say? What does that say about what you pay him going forward? Is there, are there excuses being made for Brandon? Are there things being left on the table? Or at the end of the day, when you're 42 and 26, and it just so happens that maybe you turning back a little bit is a big reason, or part of the reason your team is winning, should that help or should that hurt what he's paid going forward?
All right, so look, before I answer that question, let me say this. I want to give a shout out to myself. I did a couple shows this offseason, and I said, similarly to what Shamit said, I said Brandon had to average 21, 7, and 7 in order for this team to succeed. His scoring had to drop. He had to take a backseat. He had to get other people involved. He has done that, and he's made the ultimate sacrifice. He would have to come off the ball, and he couldn't be as dominant as he had previously been. Right now, he's currently averaging 21, 6, and 5. You damn near 50 wins with 21, 6, and 5, right? I just want to retort one thing Mike said too before I answer your question. It's so crazy to me. I see fans saying, "Man, I can't wait to BI get traded so he can unleash his full." Bro, what? Like the man about to win 50 games, probably be a. He looks like they could potentially be a top 4 playoff seed, and you want him to get traded because he's not being Brandon who would. Anyways, look, I got an analogy for you, and you called Zion a generational talent. I'm not gonna disagree with you. Bi is, and this is no disrespect to him or the guy that I'm about to mention.
Would about to be bad.
Bi is Big Boy from Outkast. Bi and Big Boy, they're great talents. They do nothing wrong. They have a textbook game. They have, even if you in Big Boy's case, he was the better rapper on the first 2 albums. He owned that shit. If you look at Bi's game, Bi brought this team to a playoff. Brought this team to the playoffs without Zion, right? They are fine talents. There's nothing wrong with their game. They can literally do. Bi, in my opinion, Bi could probably average a triple double any season he wanted to. He could. That's the type of game he has. That's not far fetched from Bi. The issue comes in. This is the problem. While Big Boy is making these great Southern playalistic ATLian albums, you just got a motherfucker over here who is just bubbling and evolving into something that nobody can conceive and understand what it is. It's not Brandon Ingram's fault. It's not Big Boy's fault that they play with generational talents.
Mm-hmm.
Big Boy had to fight tooth and nail with Andre 3000 for verse supremacy. And listen, all the time, Big Boy ain't had a best verse. But you know what started to happen? Billboards, Grammys, 10 times platinum, diamond. Like, you know what I'm saying? And in my opinion, to just kind of like foreshadow that's what you starting to see here. When Big Boy is the guy who he's the pimp, right? He's the guy that keeps the group's feet to the ground. He relatable. He related. I was bringing that somewhere. Just stay with me. Just stay. I'm saying like it was pimps and aliens. So I was. Just,
Isn't that crazy?
It wasn't too many places I could go with that. It was
All right, go ahead.
Isn't that crazy?
All right. So Big Boy is the reason that Andre could leave the earth because he kept everything. He kept his feet on the ground, which is the same thing that technically Brandon is doing right now. Brandon is allowing Zion to fly because he's holding everything down here together.
Okay.
Go
ahead. Go ahead. I mean, you still cooking? Go ahead.
No. I turned the stove off. So to answer your question about the payments, yes, he probably is going to have to sacrifice, so to speak. But I don't think what he's doing is falling on deaf ears or a blind or somebody's turning a blind eye to it. I'm pretty sure the organization is aware of it. They see it. Check this out. BI already getting $33 million a year. Isn't he not about to take a pay cut? He can't. He wasn't all NBA, so he can't get the 50. But he probably damn sure will be 43. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's not technically a huge jump. Like it's 10 million more dollars a year. It's not crazy.
Well, I mean, we're about to have another chance to find out what's more important, winning or individual success, if you can't achieve both at the same time. Now, I mean, you know, Lito turned up his light a little bit. Here's my turn a little bit. This was just brought to my attention because in the conversation that I brought up earlier about Maples, which Schmidt chimed in on, Khris Middleton's name was brought up. Now I forgot that I had said this, but what year we in? 2024? 2024. This was 2019, y'all.
Oh, buddy. What is the crystal ball?
At this period in time, Chris, I'm sorry for misspelling your name. Chris Khris shouldn't be spelled with a K to begin with. So actually, it's your fault, brother. You ain't gonna never see this show. But Khris is supposed to only Crips. You all right? Well, blood. But no, I forget it. So look.
Well, I'm
Anyway,
wilding.
Anyway, so I said now during this period of time, I believe Brandon was on the way to being an all-star, and Zion was still out. He was still hurt, but he was. I think he was on the way to coming back before he had a setback that didn't have him returning until whatever it was, December or January. I think I cracked the code here. Brandon Ingram, once this team is healthy, is Khris Middleton. Now, full context, I got destroyed when I said that. Absolutely destroyed. Because I was thinking about it from a winning context at the time. I'm thinking about what Zion is, and they still had Drew, and you can, a third option. So you can plug CJ right in here as this third option for this, in this equation. I'm thinking about what is it going. He was averaging all-star numbers at that time, 24, whatever. He wins most improved player of the year that year. But it was clear once Zion came back, that was gonna have to change. So I'm thinking about in a winning setup, and the only two that I could, the thing that the team, the player, the system that made the most sense was Milwaukee. Giannis and Zion have some comparable, abilities.
Yep.
And I thought, maybe it's Khris Middleton. And then you look at the numbers, and you look at some of Chris's better years, which a lot of them have been winning. But we're gonna throw out this season and last season since he's been hurt again. But if you look at some of his winning years, they look very similar to what Brandon is doing right now. And here it is. If I told you Brandon was averaging 21, 5, and 6, you wouldn't bat an eye. 25 and 6. You know what I'm saying? 24 and 5. That looks kind of similar. That looks very similar to what Brandon is doing now. Now, again, I don't know. And Khris Middleton, to his point, until you mentioned Coach Cyp, those are regular seasons. There were playoff series, especially when this team won, where Khris Middleton turned his game up to a total different level. Do you see that comparison? And is there another comparison that you think makes sense when we're all talking about what it ultimately means to sacrifice to win, but still ultimately be productive?
No, I think the Middleton comparison, it does make sense, and it makes sense only because of what you said. Because Zion and Giannis, while they're built totally different, or have essentially the same skill set, batting around, rim pressure. Even though Giannis added the mid range, he's best obviously living in the paint. Attracting bodies, and I don't know that I I don't know that Zion. I think at some point, let's just assume that Zion finishes the season, postseason healthy, right? He'll go into an offseason finally healthy. He'll be able to address the jump shot, and maybe he adds that like Giannis added going into the season where they won the championship, because a lot of what Zion is was what Giannis was, and then they shut the paint off on Giannis, and then we had that whole can he get it done? Can he get it done? He can only dunk. He can only lay up. If you take the paint away from him, he's not effective. And then Giannis came out the next season, mid ranges and baseline jumpers. He even extended his range out to the three, and it wasn't super successful. But the comparison makes sense because Giannis and Zion have some of the same elements in their game, and I don't know that there's another. I don't know if there's another comparison you can make. Truthfully, you want to make the DeRozan comparison, but Bi doesn't get to the free throw line as much as DeMar. And when DeMar has this FU mentality about him where even when my midi, my go-to isn't falling, where we just gonna go to the cup and I'm gonna throw a bunch of Kobe fakes at you, get you off your feet and take the contact and either get the and one or go to the free throw line. So while DeMar's not hitting a plethora of threes, he's balancing it out by getting to the stripe a whole lot. And if we saw a stretch from Slim where he was aggressive, getting to the basket, using his wingspan, one dribble right outside the free throw line, and he's at the rim finishing. I would like to think that that's going to go up as well because again, when possessions are limited in the postseason, you can't take bad shots. If you got an opportunity to attack the paint, you have to attack the paint. Um, so that's why I'm hoping that we get that from Slim. But probably the comparison that makes the most sense is Middleton. Even from I don't know, Chris Middleton's not a big volume 3-point shooter either. Him and Bi have almost the same have almost the same shot profile, and neither one of them have an elite level handle, but a handle that's good enough to get them where they need to go. I think a little bit better, better playmaker than Middleton. So, if he's not scoring it that well, he's actually spraying the ball and facilitating it better than Chris. But to that run, even though Chris has some stinker games, he a lot of his better games he played in the mid range, and he had a pretty good diet of threes in that run. So Chris Middleton is probably you hit it. You said it, 2019, and everybody who probably let you have it. Like, nah, Bi's a 27 point a game scorer. Yeah, if he plays for the Charlotte Hornets
Yep.
and they're not going anywhere, yeah, go get the numbers and get the money, and then Stans will be complaining about how they don't have any players. But at the end of the day, man, you only get to play with generational talent once in your career if you're lucky. So
Mm-hmm. No,
bet you Paul George would like to play with Zion.
yeah. And look, man, like I don't think that. I think Brandon Ingram is more talented than Khris Middleton. I think Khris Middleton, pound for pound, is a better shooter. But I think Brandon Ingram, if we're putting the players side by side, I think Brandon Ingram is more talented than Khris Middleton. Khris Middleton at his best. I don't know what Khris Middleton has left currently with the injuries he's had to overcome recently. But that guy that we talked about, those stats that I pulled up, that guy had a 37, he had a year where he made $37 million, had a year where he made $35 million. In today's world, we're talking 22, 21, that probably equals out to, mid 40s, somewhere around there with how the salary cap changes and inflation and so on and so forth. And I think what's keeping us right now, from being 100% sure how this, when having this conversation, Lito, is that we just have to see it, right? We have to see it. And I think with Brandon, certain things when you're watching the game just look different from a couple years ago. He's of course added some weight. So maybe that's taking away a little bit of his quickness. Maybe that's messed a little bit with his quickness on jumpers. His form looks a little bit different sometimes.
On different
But
shots too.
yeah. But at the end of the day, we're still talking about a regular season. We're talking about regular season stats right now. Before we end the show, I do want to talk a little bit about FIBA and how that is or isn't playing into what we're seeing right now, specifically some of the things off the ball that he's doing, defensively, the rebound, and just the things that don't involve having the basketball in your hand. But Lito, I want to know, based off this current Brandon Ingram that you're seeing, what are some of the things that you think can or will make him a little bit more successful, or even some things that you would like to see a little bit more from him to maybe have more dominant games to match where Zion is, projecting right now, playing the best basketball of his season, some of the best basketball of his career. This recent stretch that we're looking at. What do you think this, whether it be alignment from the staff, whether it be certain lineups, or just what Brandon can do to match some of the expectations and wants that people are looking for and are thinking about when they're putting the Pelicans in playoff series against certain teams or talking about this team making a run?
Look, let me say this. I just like to add to Mike's point. Certain members of the media were on the Bucks championship run. Certain members of the media were calling Giannis robbing in regards to Khris Middleton's Batman. I just want to make sure people remember that. That was crazy. I feel like Mike pretty much said my thoughts. And I said this at the top of the show. The 1-2 dribble pull-ups, or mid post 1-2 dribble turn over the shoulder, more attempts at the rim, more free throw attempts. All of those things are gonna help him help his game. And I know, like, I gave no specific science behind that, and it kind of probably sounds like rudimentary, but the thing is basketball is just basketball. Like, he's done this on every level. It's not something I can tell Brandon Ingram to do that he's not done or thought of doing. I don't think it's on the coaching staff though. I think it's specifically on him. Like, I can't. I was telling Justin this the other night. I can't put this on Willie Green because like, Willie's trying to effectively run a whole organization, a whole unit of guys on the court. Brandon is good enough to where Brandon can get himself out of the slump. Like, Brandon don't need no help. Like, you see him. I've seen him after practice again, staying with Coach Vincent. I've seen him, just he a gym rat. And the Chris, you said this all the time. The thing about work is undeniable. Work is always gonna show. Nobody else got to see the work, but the thing about the work is you can't hide it. It's gonna show at some point. I'm confident in that. And you I know you intend on going a FIBA route. I want to say this as far as the slump to me is due to the lack of elongated minutes on the floor between 1 and 14. I think you still, it's year 5, yes, but you still got two guys who trying to figure out how to coexist and where to pick their spots at on certain times of the floor. And there's nothing wrong with that because, again, we still talking regular season, right? I'd rather they do it right. I'd rather, this happen right now than mid-May when you know what I'm saying, you're 0-2 against whoever. I think that's important to go through these growing pains, and that's what I'm gonna call it. It's a growing pain in Brandon's game. It's not due to lack of skill, and it's not due to lack of will. It's just due to the unavailability of the other party. He hadn't had these in-game scenarios to know how to operate in certain areas. Zion is a guy, in much like Andre Benjamin's case, Zion is a guy who, it does not matter. You do not have to call his number. I'm going to figure it out. I'm a Rubik's Cube on the floor. Like, you can't exactly figure me out. I can compatulate myself in a certain spots on the floor where I don't need anything or anybody to do. I don't need anybody to do anything for me. Just let me exist. And much like Brandon, which we saw in FIBA, you saw those struggles, and then you saw him come into the season and pretty much right those wrongs early on, right? But you saw the defense, you saw the aggressiveness on defense literally carry over from October to now March. So in order to figure out what's wrong with Brandon, quote unquote, and how can he fix it, I'm gonna land my plane right here. In the words of Andre Benjamin, you're looking to be a butterfly without the caterpillar, right? You got to be the caterpillar first before you can fly, and that's where this duo is about to go.
So, to add further context here, Brandon is playing the least amount of minutes, or he's on pace to finish with the least amount of minutes that he's played in the NBA, or averaged since his rookie season. He's also, if he plays one more game, he will have topped his career high in games played since his rookie year. And that means that he's one game away from topping the most amount of games started in his career. That's also significant, and it's leading into my point about FIBA. And look, I mean, I part of the unknown in this is that, well, while you're seeing Zion finish games with 30 minutes and you're seeing Brandon finish games with 32 minutes, well, that's not going to be the case in the playoffs, right? Those rotations, as Coach Cyp, they're going to shorten, and the minutes for your main guys are going to rise. So maybe, Lito, we're going to see more minutes of those two guys together. And I remember, I think it was Rick Adelman said once. Shout out to Rick. Rick Adelman said all good coaches and teams have something once the playoffs start that nobody is expecting to throw out. And it's difficult to balance when you're trying to win games in the regular season, especially over 82, and hide certain things. But all playoff teams have something that isn't expected. The good ones have something that isn't expected. And that's what I'm curious. What's going to be, what's that magic box? Is it simply these Zion and Brandon playing 40-minute games, 38-minute games? Is it the way that you're seeing them being used specifically together that maybe unlocks some, easier or just more success from Brandon and Zion Williamson together as a duo? Those are the things that I'm interested in. But Coach, FIBA, what are your thoughts about some of the things? I mean, the joke was he was a glue guy, right? But some nights for the Pelicans, he's been a glue guy, right? In wins. Do you think some of those things that he learned, some of those situations that he was put in by that staff and playing with some of the talent that he played in, kind of, you know, uh, rubbed off on him a little bit, pause, or are present in what we're seeing with him today? Do you think that he was able to, some of those traits just by nature, he's remembered, or, he's thinking back to, even if it didn't go the way that he wanted to? A lot of things that people wanted to see from his success, or at least for me, I didn't care about how many points he scored. I wanted to see what he looked like when he wasn't the main guy, when he didn't have the basketball in his hand. How would he do the little things? Well, he's doing a lot of little things now. How much of that would you attribute to his time spent with the FIBA team? You muted.
You mute.
You muted, Coach.
Rubbing off on somebody has been a term that's been coined for a long time. Everything doesn't need to pause. That man. Like, dude, we got the ball in the middle. Pause. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? We're not gonna pause sports terms and like. All right, anyway, I just had to get it off my chest. I'm 40 years old, man, and I'm like, come on, bro, what are we doing? Uh, but I do think that the FIBA experience is helping him right now. I just think that the difference in that experience and him not having a rock in his hands, kind of like being placed in the corner and just having to spectate to learn how to cut and move without the ball. I wonder if that was explained to him. How was that explained to him in the sense that I thought I was going to be doing one thing and they got me doing this with a bunch of dudes that I don't know, and it's not a good experience, and we're not winning as a result.
Yeah.
But now I'm doing these same things with a bunch of dudes that I know and I like. You know, he was when Jose signed his contract, he was in there taking pictures with him. Trey his man, Najee his man. He's like letting them dudes get busy and standing off to the side. It's like watching his little brothers, grow and get money. And he's contributing and winning. So I think that aspect of it, I think he's willing, maybe where he was probably reluctant to do it in FIBA, he's not as reluctant to do it now with some people that he likes, that he considers, family, and like we've been saying, has the team on pace to win 50 games, knowing that he can still tap into another level that the team's gonna need him to get to in the playoffs because rotations go straight. So he's got to know that I get whoever we matched up against in the first round. Bi, you got to get busy. Now we can't depend on Trey to hit 8 threes this game. We can't depend on Herb to hit 6 threes this game. We got to approach this like it's you and Zion because y'all know as well as I do that once you get in the playoffs, it becomes less about depth and more about your top dudes. Excuse me. Period. it's all about who's got the best talent. You do your hierarchy in the final in the playoffs, and name the top 10 guys. And a lot of times, whoever has more guys in the top five is probably the team that you think gonna win the series. So I think especially off ball stuff, him having to get comfortable with not being a high usage guy, catching and shooting, catching and driving, maybe offensive rebound. I think that helped. And then defensively too, because when I was watching Fever clips on Synergy earlier, I saw him being physical with cutters, being physical on switches, communicating a little bit more. He was active on the ball. His screen navigation wasn't the greatest, but that's not what he does. That's not what he's good at. So to ask him to check all of those boxes on defense is asking a lot. But the boxes I did see him check in FIBA, he's checking them. He's checking them now. And on that FIBA point though, I I wonder. Brian used to always talk about like having those deep playoff runs and playing Olympic basketball. And you saw what happened with Drew and Book when they went deep into the finals and then played for Team USA. And the next season they were all banged up. You know, I wonder if Slim kind of hit a bit of a mini wall because he played, summer ball. It's kind of like with Giannis. When his body started looking all beat up because he played summer ball for his country. You know, I wonder if that, if that part of FIBA, is playing a bit of a part in it. It's just it's always stuff I'm thinking about trying to figure out like why these dudes are operating how they operating. But to the original point, I think the off ball usage, and then the defensive side of it, where you have to do glue guy stuff. You have to if you want to impact the game, you have to impact it defensively with the rebounding, with guarding switches and having to take on a big man. I think it might have been Lithuania. Chris, I couldn't remember, but he got switched on the big. He did all he could to handle the big in the post and block the shot. Now all of a sudden you fast forward to the Cavs game, he's got to be thinking like, oh, Jared Allen ain't nothing like some of the dudes I was guarding in FIBA. Don't help. He's got to be leaning on some of that, and I'm sure somebody's telling him like, just like FIBA, B, just like FIBA on defense. But now he got her who he trusts. Now he got Najee who he trusts. He got Jose who he trusts. He not doing it. He doing it for some people that he rock with, and it's way easier to get out your comfort zone and do something that you're not used to doing if you're doing it for people that you rock with, especially if it's for a winning cause.
100. Well said. I'm telling you right now, there's a few things that you said that's gonna be in the clip I sent to Twitter. boy, that boy was on fire there, Lito. I don't know. I might have to split up the three stacks and the diatribe you just went on right there. Just make that, bro, because y'all went crazy. Lito, anything to add about the FIBA environment, helping Brandon or kind of playing into what we're seeing right now? And then I got a question for you guys, yes or no, and we'll wrap up. Lito, go ahead.
I think nothing to add. I just wanted to say I think Mike had a valid because I didn't really even think about the reason that his legs could be tired. Like it's been a lot of basketball. And I know like the average person is probably thinking like, but you play basketball for a living, but like, man, it's different doing it like playing year round basketball. Nah, that's a beast of a whole different like burden. Brian is probably Kobe, Brian, Kobe, possibly Mike. You know what I'm saying? Like the greats, they get through it, obviously. And I'm not saying BI not great. I'm just saying this is his first foray with it. So he didn't have the foundation probably to understand how to get through it. And the other thing too is it was nobody on this team he could probably ask to figure it out either, right? Because nobody was here to talk. Like, how could you help me? You guys haven't done it either.
Well said. Mike, I'm gonna start with you. Yes or no? If the season ended today, I know we zooming way past where this team may end up at the end of the season. But if the season ended today, would you sign Brandon Ingram to a max extension?
Yeah.
Lito?
Yeah, and I want to add that it's no way he doesn't get signed. it's no way it's not gonna happen.
I'm just curious if you would give him the max or not.
I think so. I think I would.
Okay.
6'10" playmakers who can score like he can score when he's on, don't grow on trees. And if you want to be here, yeah.
See, and what Mike just said, right? And then the other thing too, I get to thinking is who do you replace him with? Like, because just name me somebody you thinking, because then the money got to match, right? Like the style of play got to match. Because I know everybody, even myself, like you got to put more perimeter talent around Zion, but like who?
I mean, look, this is a total different conversation that we will completely destroy at some point and beat into the ground. But I've been looking at New Orleans like Milwaukee for years now, bro. Like for years, even when they didn't look like such, and a lot of that was on Zion. I'm thinking if Zion is Giannis, if he's able to get to that stature in this league consistently, and at some point that's just dedication, effort, and games played. Well, I'm looking at them the same way you look at Milwaukee. You got to remember how many times they've reset certain things until they found what they were looking for. Once Khris Middleton was it, right? But you win a championship one year and Drew Holiday's gone, and you got Dame Lillard. And before, even with Khris Middleton, you talking Greg Monroe was there, and we're talking Jabari Parker was there, and we're talking like there's been a lot of people surrounding Giannis over time. They've reset a few times, and not even just with players, with coaches, right? With Jay Kidd, and then Adrian Griffin this year, right? And and Coach Bud, like so. But it's a lot easier to do that when you have a talent like Giannis there that you're going to get 60, 55, so however many games out of, and he's going to be at the end of the day contending for, he's going to have you right there. It's a lot easier to figure that out. And that's been the problem for the Pelicans for so long. So I don't know about the player because so much has been really predicated on Zion's ability to stay healthy and really see what that looks like going forward. So I don't know. I just was curious if y'all would, based off what y'all was seeing. And y'all both said yes. So, hey, man, let's see what this season ends with BI, man. I think that there are some things. We talked about minutes played. We talked about overall games played. We talking about his buy-in defensively. He's still, in my opinion, I mean, for his size, I think he's top 3, top 2 when we're talking about forwards, passing forwards. I think he's one of the, he's up there, one of the best. I mean, cross court baseline of corner passes, man. No matter, like when we talk about accuracy, I can't find you many that's able to make those passes as he is, and he can whether it's overhead, whether he's throwing left shoulder, right shoulder, falling backwards, one-handed, like that's a level. And that's something when we talk about possessions mattering. He's able to take care of the basketball. That's just special stuff, man. So I do think that there are some, we just got to figure out what the scoring is going to look like as things go forward. And if that's able to put together, then maybe we'll have a completely different conversations, period, about the Pelicans and how far they can go this season as the playoffs approach. When now the national media, you can't find somebody that don't think they got a chance to make the Western Conference Finals, which is, but Mike, Cyp, I know you've been working on a lot of things with the website, man. I do want you to plug that. Tell everybody where they can find you. Tell you what you tell everybody. Give everybody an update on what you got upcoming with the website and beyond, man.
FDLhoops.com, a resource where we help hoopers, man. This film breakdown, helping these kids, address strengths and weaknesses, helping coaches, break down film on maybe other opponents, maybe their own team. Help players and parents just navigate the recruitment process, just giving them my information and my advice, as somebody who did it, on the sidelines. FDLhoops.com.
Love that, man. Lito, while we're talking here,
What up?
I
Lil
could
Mama's
probably
up, fellas. I got a bounce.
all good, coach. We'll
Appreciate
see y'all. Yo, Lito,
What's up, bro?
go ahead.
Oh yeah, man. Listen, man. If y'all need credit, I just got the shipment in the day. Actually, if y'all need credit for the low price of $25, you can have all the credit you want. You can give it out, pass it out to your friends, your people. BooCrewMedia.com, man. BooCrewMedia.com. Give them credit. And listen, let me tell y'all. Let me give y'all some science. The numbers on the card, obviously, the first 400. That's just a ancillary card number. But when this was made, when the shirt was made, this is Willie Green's record as a head coach. 36-46, 42-40. And at the time, they were 34-24 when the shirts were made. So give them credit, man. Shout out to Willie.
Najee, get us out. Oh, man. Like, if this was like who were acting, I'd have to redo that again. But Najee, get us up out of here. Y'all like, comment, subscribe, get in the comments. Tell us, should the Pelicans be worried about Brandon Ingram? Do y'all agree with the Khris Middleton cop? Is there somebody else that y'all think of when y'all watching BI? Is it Evan Turner? J-Dub said that people went crazy. But is it the best of what Evan Turner would have been? Who else you got? Paul George?
Bro,
Y'all
I thought
tell
Evan Turner
me,
was
man.
going to be a star. Evan Turner was going to be a star.
We all, you ain't alone, bro. I thought Evan Turner was going to be a star as well. But yeah, man, let us know what y'all think. Hopefully the Pelicans end up winning tomorrow, win 4 straight, chasing 5th. Could you imagine them going to beating Orlando tomorrow, then beating Miami in the rematch in Miami to win 5 straight finally? I can't, but I hope they do. Najee, get us out of here.
In the building. I told you last time, get with us or get out of here, man.
Ate the grape.